You ever see one of those massive container ships, a 200,000-ton floating city, and wonder how that one tiny-looking hook holds it in place against the wind in the ocean? It just seems impossible, right? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain because I promise you, anchors do not work the way you think they do.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll tackle the anchor paradox. Then we'll explain why the chain is king. After that, we'll hit the ocean's limits, learn the old school trick of counting the shackles, and finally figure out the physics of breaking out. All right, let's dive right in. Part 1, the anchor paradox. This is all about a question of scale that it doesn't seem to make any sense. I mean, seriously, think about it. The amount of force from wind and currents is colossal, enough to snap thick steel cables. So how in the world does this one piece of metal, which looks completely outmatched, stop that huge ship from just getting dragged out to sea? Well, you know what? I'm gonna give you the spoiler right up front. It's not the hook. The anchor itself, it's not the hero of this story. The real secret is something way heavier, way longer, and a whole lot more important. And that leads us perfectly into our second part. The chain is king. It's time to meet the real powerhouse of this whole operation. You see, the anchor is basically just the punctuation at the end of a very, very long and very heavy sentence. The chain, that's the secret weapon. And its power, it comes from pure, simple weight. And the scale here is just mind-blowing. Get this, a single link from a big ship's anchor chain can weigh over 300 pounds. That's more than a big refrigerator. And the whole chain is often way, way heavier than the anchor it's even connected to. So all that incredible weight creates this beautiful thing from physics called the catenary curve. It's just that natural sag you see when a heavy chain hangs between 2 points. And that sag, that's where all the magic happens. It acts like a giant, heavy shock absorber. Here's how it all works. The captain doesn't just drop the anchor straight down. Nope. They carefully lay out a huge length of this heavy chain on the seabed. So when a wave or the wind pushes the ship, it first has to fight the incredible weight of all that chain, trying to lift tons of it off the ocean floor. By the time any of that force actually gets to the anchor, the pull is completely horizontal, which just digs the anchor even deeper into the seabed. Genius. But, and you knew there'd be a but, as amazing as the system is, it has one major limitation. And that brings us to part 3, the ocean's limits. Because it turns out you can't just drop anchor wherever you feel like it. Which leads to a really interesting question. What if a ship breaks down in the middle of the Pacific, where the ocean is miles deep? Can it just drop anchor and wait for help? The short answer, an absolute definite no. Big ships cannot anchor in the deep ocean. It is physically impossible. And here's why. The whole catenary curve system works beautifully in shallower water, say up to about 100 meters or so. But if you tried to drop miles of chain into the deep ocean, the sheer weight of the chain just hanging there would be so immense, it could literally snap the winch or tear the bow right off the ship. The solution becomes the problem. So what do they do out there? Well, they either just drift or, if they have to stay put, like a modern oil rig or a drill ship, they use this incredible tech called dynamic positioning. It uses GPS and a bunch of thrusters all over the ship, and a computer basically swims in place against the currents to hold its position perfectly without ever touching the bottom. Okay, so let's get back to shallow water, where things work. How does the crew actually know how much chain they've let out? Well, that brings us to section 4, counting the shackles. And it's this wonderfully low-tech solution for a really high-stakes problem. When that chain is just flying out of the ship, how do you keep track? Well, sailors have a unit of measurement called a shackle, sometimes called a shot. Each shackle is a standard length, exactly 27.5 meters, or about 90 feet. And the system they use to count them is just brilliant in its simplicity. The special links that connect each shackle are painted with bright colors. The first one's red, the second is white, the third is blue, and so on. An officer just stands on the bow, watches the colors fly by, and radios to the captain, 3 shackles in the water. They even wrap wire around some of the links so they can feel which one it is in the dark. So simple, so reliable, it just works. All right, we are almost done, but there is one last giant problem to solve. How do you get the anchor back? This is our final section, breaking out. It's a clever little physics trick for lifting a 20-ton anchor that's buried deep in the mud. See, the problem is that the anchor isn't just sitting there. It has dug itself in, creating this incredible suction seal with the mud and sand. You can't just winch it straight up, you'd burn out the motor trying to fight the entire ocean floor. So the solution is just elegant. First, the ship uses its own engines to slowly drive forward right over the top of where the anchor is. Second, this makes the chain go completely vertical. Third, that direct upward pull changes the whole angle of the force and pop, it breaks the suction seal. The crew actually calls that moment breaking out. And finally, as it comes up, powerful water jets blast all the mud off before it gets stowed. When you look at the whole system, it's really a perfect example of great engineering. It's this beautiful combination of absolute brute force. We're talking tons and tons of steel and incredibly precise calculation, from understanding that catenary curve all the way down to painting a link red. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What other everyday things that we just completely take for granted are hiding these amazing engineering secrets, just waiting for someone to look a little closer?